Welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode, I'll be discussing the 10th outing for the Fast and Furious crew and the 11th overall movie in the Fast and Furious franchise, Fast X, as directed by Leterrier. Marking the start of a double bill to form the climatic finale of the main arm of the franchise, this penultimate entry sees Dominic Dom Toretto, as played by Vin Diesel, the principal protagonist of the franchise, and his extended family go up against one of the most ruthlessly vindictive villains they have ever set upon, Dante Reyes, as played by Jason Momoa, the son of Herman Reyes, who the team last met and fleeced in the 5th installment, 2011's Fast 5. Dante is now looking to make Dom and his team, well, his family, pay for the death of his father. And death is too much of an easy way out. Dante wants Dom to feel the pain and snares him and his team right into the centre of his intricately woven plan for revenge. As Dante turns up the heat, the crew do everything they know how, bend every rule and call in every favour to keep their families safe. But he always just seems just 2 steps ahead, preempting their every move as each of the players get caught up in his game. As Dom and the gang frantically try to gain the upper hand, it's ones that they love and most cherish that are going to pay the price. And as the agency with whom they previously had been working now turns its back on them, just how will they ever turn the tables in their favour? So, my love for this franchise over the years has known no bounds. I've been there to defend the ludicrous and ever-escalating stunts, bonkers action sequences, and near-gravity-defying heroics, all in the name of a great mindless action blockbuster. These movies have had a place in my heart since that very special speed race got our blood pumping back in 2001. I'd revved up, got myself to our closest IMAX, ready for another heart-pounding gasoline-fueled race to the finish line. But on leaving the cinema, I just couldn't help but feel somewhat deflated. To be honest, the film was everything you could want from a Fast and Furious movie. It had all the right ingredients, but somehow that spark of ignition I had loved in the previous movies just seemed to kind of fizzle out here. It felt like it spent all of its time and energy leading up to something with very little payoff, a predictable prelude to something much bigger, but in the end, it was really just another story of revenge, wrapped up in one of all of the spy and secret government elements that the series has kind of grown into. For me, I think the part that really kind of let this down was the storytelling. Everything else kind of felt like it should have worked, somehow for something that was, in essence, a pretty simple idea. Ended up being quite a right hopscotch melting pot of ideas, feeling like elements of the plot were just simply bolted together. Parts were over here, then over there, then back over there again, and then somewhere else entirely. And it wasn't simply misdirection either. That would have been something. This was just poorly constructed. Very disjointed framework indeed. Clunky. I think the more self-aware moments were kind of supposed to be more nostalgic than they actually came across. I liked the idea of linking it to one of their earlier escapades. It worked for the series on a number of occasions, certainly linking it to the 3rd. But linking it back to the 5th, which honestly is probably one of the best the series produced, just reminded us that this wasn't that. It wasn't the 5th, and instead of stepping out and at least giving us something new, even if that was going to be even more outlandish than their last outing. I mean, hey, after going into space in the last installment, I was half expecting us to transverse the Fast and Furious multiverse. That would have been something. Well, alas. I jest, but quite frankly, Fast 9 had more of a sense that everything had been leading there. This just felt more like unfinished business, tagged on for the sake of it, and a reset back to their fugitive days. Again, pretty much an old road travelled for the franchise. And that's another thing. Nothing really felt inventive. Revisiting events down memory lane just felt like a Fast X clip show. All very recycled and never really ingeniously presented. Sure, it made all the right moves, thrilling even. It remained true to the franchise. It's a say, I can't grumble at that, but all in all, we really could have been watching any of them. It has no real USP, by the fact that, like all duos, everything just kind of abruptly ends, leaving us on a knife edge for that next installment. The push for family has never been stronger, but yet the connection and construction has never felt weaker. I know that it was Dante's mission to break them apart, but that feeling that I had nothing at all to do with him. Everything felt so dissociated for some particular reason. I don't know if it's all a bit too much this time around, and that is of course saying something for this franchise. Its storytelling seems so lethargic, resting on everything else that's come before. At least each of the previous entries, for as outlandish as they are, give us something a little different each time around. Have we just kind of reached off that levelling off point for the franchise where this is at, you know? Same old same, just chuck it up and send it out. Additionally, Momoa as a villain, and this might be controversial to some, but for me, was a really hard sell. Now, he played the role fine. I mean, very animated, in fact. I mean, he gave it his all, you know? As an actor playing a character, I don't think he could have asked for more, but it was the character. But I think there was too much of the grand theatrics to kind of overplay those that had kind of come before him. And it was kind of really hard to see how he, as a character, would have the wherewithal and focus capacity to pull off some of the kind of more intricate plot angles requiring that split-second timing. Seems like chaos kind of masquerading as a plan. I can't argue, there is still some fun to be had. The comedy is actually pretty decent, especially between John Cena and Leo Ablo-Perry, who plays Dom's brother and son respectively, as they kind of embark on a road trip all of their own. It's kind of a set piece within a piece, you know? It actually ends up being pretty sweet and almost to the point that you're kind of holding out for those moments above all else. The action sequences in themselves are pretty spectacularly set out. I mean, it matches anything that has come before with the series, and there's plenty of posturing to go around. Plenty of mayhem, and certainly everybody vying for the top spot, and that in itself might have been one of the issues. Everybody wants the limelight. But as usual, you know, it does provide some brilliant banter once again. This is still Fast and Furious at heart. There's no denying that. It's a decent action flick. But, for the penultimate entry, I think the series deserved better than what it delivered. We deserved better as the fans. Overall, this was a disappointing way, in my opinion, to start the beginning of the end for this franchise, which some, I'm sure, would kind of probably argue that the end came a long time ago. It's a luggish brute of a movie that honestly never truly gets off the ground, despite its many, many gravity-defying antics, and to be fair, it's some fairly well-trodden ground at that. It struggles to find any of its own USP, very much reliant on what had kind of come before. It's still Fast and Furious at heart, I've said this. It certainly meets the standards of the series as far as action is concerned. That you're not going to be disappointed with. But it just feels a lot emptier than it should. Perhaps when the next instalment arrives, concluding not only the events of this movie, but also the main arm of the franchise, my feeling towards this movie may change in retrospect. Watch this space. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please do leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you at SciFirst MovieTalk. Definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.